What's up, NFL fans? I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and don't forget to check out and purchase your copy of our latest football game plan book, Stiff Arming Football Myths. We have these available in both PDF and paperback form.
So here is the breakdown of my first round graded prospects in this year's draft class. 31 guys in total. 2 small school prospects earned first round grades. Ron Fields, a cornerback out of Texas A&M Commerce, a Richard Sherman clone, and Darius Davis, the explosive wide receiver, 5'10", 219, out of Henderson State. The top positions that have earned first round grades this year, starting with the receivers, there were 5, 4 cornerbacks, 4 defensive tackles, and also 3 tailbacks this year earned first round marks. But there's a few guys that I would like to expound on, starting with my #1 overall player in this draft class, Jameis Winston. To me, he's a phenomenal quarterback talent from a pure quarterbacking perspective. Many want to point to Winston's number of interceptions this year at 17 and draw the conclusion that's directly tied to his decision-making. That's furthest from the truth. Actually, watching all of Winston's interceptions this year, you can definitely say that half weren't his fault due to wide receivers stopping on routes, miscommunications, or even just flat-out drops by wide receivers that resulted in interceptions. And a lot of people want to point to his windup as a knock about his game, but that's one of the biggest football myths out there right now. How you throw the football doesn't matter as much as where and when you throw the football. And again, if you watch the tape, you'll find that both anticipation and accuracy are the 2 biggest parts of his game. So you don't have to knock Jameis Winston for the sole purpose of pumping up another player, or at least if you're going to knock his game, please find legitimate reasons why. Winston, in my opinion, is a John Elway clone and will be an immediate impact player from day one. Senquez Golson may be a shock to many, but I put a heavy emphasis on a cornerback's ability to make plays on the ball. In every Ole Miss game I watched, number 21 always had the ball in his hands, or at least batting it away from the offensive player. Now, why he's here and a guy like Gerard Holloman out of Louisville isn't, well, it's because Golson has complete game. He can press, he can play inside or on the boundary. He's also a big factor in the running game. People will point to his size, but remember, size is not a skill. It is a measurement. Just because you're 6'1", doesn't mean you can play press, jump, track a ball, or even make a play on the ball. At 5'9", 175, Golson plays a position how you would draw it up. Ty Montgomery out of Stanford is another player that some may find surprising. People will say, well, he can't catch, and point to the Notre Dame game as an example. Well, number 1, he can catch. He may not be Larry Fitzgerald, but he's definitely not Stephen Hill either. And number 2, the Notre Dame game was in a driving rainstorm, but I digress. Truth be told, you can tell a lot about a wide receiver and how they catch the ball as well as how they drop the football. In Montgomery's case, his hands and eyes are where they need to be, even in his drops, which tells you it's a concentration thing. You saw something similar at LSU with Odell Beckham. Now for quick clarification, I am not comparing Ty Montgomery and Odell Beckham. I'm comparing their situations. Back on point, Jarvis Landry was thought to have had the better hands of the 2, which I still think is true. Now, while Beckham dropped too many catchable balls, a la Victor Cruz, which is the guy I compared him to coming out of LSU, point being is that Beckham's drops, just like Montgomery's, were focus-based and not skills-related. So Montgomery will be fine. Plus, you add the fact that he can put the ball in the end zone from not only anywhere on the field, but from any wide receiver position. The X, your Z, your slot. Montgomery runs very good routes and is an explosive player with power. So evaluating his game, I definitely think he belongs here in the first round. Here's a look at my second round graded prospects. There are 63 guys in total, and this is where I have a ton of value on my big board. A lot of these guys will actually go in round 1, and I believe they'll provide good quality, even starting minutes as rookies for their respective teams. Now, the 2 quarterbacks that everyone's talking about are Marcus Mariota and Brett Huntley. In my opinion, not much is separating the 2 players. Mariota ranks a little bit higher because of his ability to pull away once he takes off and his willingness to take off with the football. I feel as though Huntley holds the ball a tad bit too long, which is why he tends to get sacked a lot. Now, from a throwing perspective, they're equal. Huntley even has better movement within the pocket than Mariota. I do believe both guys can be good starters in the league. Look at the comparison of Mariota Mariota to Tannehill and Huntley to Alex Smith as to what I believe their ceilings are as professionals. I also have Shane Ray out of Missouri here as a second-round player because I feel right now he's a one-dimensional player. Now, his one dimension, getting to the quarterback, is pretty good, but right now where he is from a down-to-down standpoint, stopping the run, holding his own at the point of attack, is not there just yet. So, in my opinion, as a situational rusher, I'd take him in round 2. In round 3 on my big board, you'll start to see a good bit of defensive players at every level, D-line, linebackers, and in the secondary, good value here as well. And this is a great year for defensive talent, especially at the small college level with Kyle Emanuel out of North Dakota State, Christopher Robinson out of Morgan State, Ryan Delaire out of Towson, and cornerbacks Devontae Bowsby out of Pittsburgh State, and Amoen Claiborne out of Northwestern State, just to name a few. But one of the FBS cornerbacks, Saquon Edwards out of New Mexico, is a player with some upside because he spent 2 seasons playing receiver for the Lobos before moving to cornerback and put together a fine senior season. Edwards has the ball skills, athleticism, and willingness versus the run to continue to grow his game as a pro. In the 4th round, I have 52 players that graded out here. A lot of tight ends in this group as well. One in particular that may be surprising to some is Max Williams out of Minnesota. A lot will say that he's the #1 tight end and is the most athletic tight end in this draft class. Well, the first statement is both subjective and debatable, and the second one just isn't true. Now, don't get me wrong, Williams may have some of the best hands at the position, but he's stiff athletically and has no interest in blocking outside of wham blocks and things of that nature. But I've heard the comparisons to Jimmy Graham, and quite honestly, that's actually a great comparison because Graham has the same limitations, and without Drew Brees' targets, Graham is merely a situational option on offense, which is what I believe Max Williams is right now coming out of college. The run blocking has to get remarkably better if he wants to become a 3-down player and a true threat. In round 5, my big board leads off with 2 small college defenders in Sage Harrell out of James Madison and Tyree Coleman out of Division III Hobart, a teammate of Ali Marpet. Now, you also see a wealth of talent here at wide receiver with Kansas State's Tyler Lockett and the 3 wide receivers out of Fordham, Bucky Jones Jr., Sam Ajala, and Brian Wetzel. This is a great year at the receiver position. But 2 of the quarterbacks you also see here, Blake Sims and Bryce Petty, were very productive players this past season and both have the talent that you can win with at the next level. But where they have concerns, or where I have concerns, is with the streakiness, because both guys can be 2 completely different players within the same quarter, let alone the same game. They'll have to find that level of consistency as they move on to the pro game. There's a lot of edge guys and defensive tackles here in the 6th round portion of my big board, as well as a lot of small college talent. This was a phenomenal year at the small college level at every position. Fullbacks are now starting to enter the list as well, with Jalston Fowler out of Alabama and Mark Weissman out of Iowa. But going back to the defensive side for a second, cornerback Manuel Esprilla is a player that I can see having a nice 10-year career as a pro. Very technically sound in how he plays the game. At defensive tackle, small college prospect Rodney Gunther out of Delaware State played multiple positions up front for the Hornets, but I think his home as a pro will be at the 5-tech position in the 3-4 defense. He played in the 3-3-5 at Delaware State, and Gunther has a great ability that you look for on both ends of defense. And finally, I have 81 prospects graded in the 7th round portion of this big board. 16 are strictly specialists, and I'll get to that in a second. But just the fact that there's this many good football players left tells you 2 things. Number 1, there's never a shortage of NFL talent, so there's never a down year of talent per se. And 2, there's definitely a need for another league to be out there right now, having a place for these guys to play. Now, there's 2 guys that I liked a lot in this group, Corey Morrissey out of Iowa State and Kenny Bell out of Nebraska. Both guys play with a ton of energy and passion, and that alone will help them stick as pros. Now, looking at the 16 specialists, 2 kickers made the list in punter Kyle Loomis out of Portland State and kicker Justin Matten out of UL Monroe. The other 14 guys are some of the best return men in this year's draft class that can fill roles on the most underrated and most underappreciated part of the game, the special teams. These guys can excel as kickoff as well as punt returners. And if you have any questions about any one of the 400 players on this big board, hit me up on Twitter and I will gladly go into detail and explain my reasoning behind each and every player. So hit me up at FBall Gameplan if you have any questions.